Welcome into the On the Call podcast. You're listening to Joe Chambers and Spencer Tomset, the podcast for sports broadcasters by sports broadcasters. This is season 2, episode 13. Spencer, again, as I say every episode, and every episode I mean it, we got a special guest with us. We got the one, the only Reily Chestnut, voice of the Western Kentucky University Lady Toppers. Spencer, round of applause.
Well, thank you. I'll be here all day.
Full disclosure, we're recording this in the evening, so if we're gonna look, here's the thing: we're probably gonna our record episode right now for length is I think hour and 24 minutes with Darren Vaught. I think I have a feeling that Reily is going to try to get us up to that threshold because you got to make your mark somehow on these things.
Ever since I listened to his take on Zootopia, I gotta bust his record because that's not right. That's not right.
All right, we're carving out a section for hot takes in this episode. We're carving that out at some point. But Joe, I'm sure you got some stuff you want to ask him. So let's get the show rolling.
Yeah, let's get the show rolling. Reily. So for those who don't know, this is my first time getting to chat with him one-on-one with Spencer. Let's discuss your journey in the industry from TSU to Belmont, your radio station work, and also some minor league baseball work you have.
Oh, well, first of all, I'm sorry that you have to talk to me. So let's get that out of the way. Oh, man. Industry. What industry is this? Why are we here? It's a world. Like, have you guys seen Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
I have not.
Well, there's a clip in there where she's talking to this guy who's playing the illustrious former shock comic, Lenny Bruce, who was an icon of his day because he broke a lot of obscenity laws for comedy that we would consider tame now. But it was a different era. And she asked him, "What do you love being a comic?" And he says, "If there's anything else in the world I could do to make a living, I would. If you told me I had to eat someone's arm or do 2 weeks at the Copa," he would say, "Pass me the salt." He walks away without giving a clear answer, but she can tell by his response and the way he just so into it. He does love it. So yes, that's how I feel. If there's anything I could do that could get me a comfortable living, I would, but this seems like the right one for me. Hence the reason you say this is episode number 13 of season 2?
Yep.
Wow, that's a coincidence because my birthday is February 13th, so this is fate.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
Yes.
Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yes. We can't script this, guys. I know we had the meeting, but we just can't script it.
Well, I don't even think he answered the question.
No, he did not. He did not answer the question.
No, I didn't. Well, but where do you want me to start? I guess I can start there.
All right, so I'll phrase it this way. I quote our colleague Ian Eagle, who we were both fortunate enough to meet back in June when he was honored for Sportscaster of the Year. He told me that you could talk to 100 different broadcasters about their journey and how they've gotten to where they are today, and you would get 100 different answers. So what has the journey been like for Reily Chestnut from the moment you knew you wanted to be a broadcaster to now being the voice of the Lady Toppers?
Oh, boy. Well, I guess I could describe it as that guy that always showed up late to the party because he thought it was cool. Because who wants to be the jerk that shows up on time or 5 minutes early when everyone's still getting ready? I didn't grow up wanting to do this. Like, there's a lot of guys in this industry that have known they wanted to do this since they were 5 or 6 years old. And I'm like, wow, good for you. But I was halfway through my freshman year of college studying political science at the University of Texas, San Antonio, with the goal to get to law school. Because, yeah, makes sense. Then I realized that studying Texas law wasn't as fun as I thought it would be. Shocking. It's a very dry read. But I had to figure out what I wanted to do, and some extracurricular activities I had in high school, including theater. I love to put on a presentation. I love to present to an audience. So I thought, well, maybe I could be an actor. That was fun. And then I realized, yeah, I don't have the face for that. So, yeah, uh, I had to figure out what else I could do. I got a good voice. I got into sports real late as well. I wasn't one of those kids that grew up playing every sport he could. I didn't get into sports as a fan until I was 13. And so I thought, well, what's a way we could challenge ourselves? Let's get into sports. It's a topic that you did not grow up around a lot of, so this could be a great test of your intelligence and your ability to actually grasp a concept you're not familiar with, because that's always appealed to me. I like a challenge. I've basically grown up being a just do it sort of ad where I do a lot of things that my parents wondered, what is he thinking? And then suddenly it pans out and they're like, oh, I guess he was thinking he was right. And he was. So I combined the two elements together, good voice. Uh, Games are fun to be at. I do remember going to some games like the University of Texas football games. Since we lived down the road from Austin, my dad and sister are Texas Exes, and that was the dream school growing up. So I remember that atmosphere and the joy and the jubilation we had, hugging complete strangers after a big moment. And I thought, well, why not call the games? This could be a great way to have the best seat in the house, get paid to go and call action. I mean, you're not a former player. You're not a pundit. You don't have hot takes as much as you like to. You don't have them. You like to call things as you see them. So I figured, yeah, why not? Let's give this a whirl and see how far we can go. So since 19 years old, this is what I've chosen to do. And for better or worse, through periods of insanity and sanity, I'm still here.
Let's dig a little bit into your time at Texas State University. Obviously, you mentioned you started out for a couple of years at Texas San Antonio and realized political science wasn't the move. So what made you move to TSU for your bachelor's in electronic media?
Well, I'm glad you did a thorough researching on that LinkedIn.
Of course.
That's clutch. Yeah, yeah. I saw the Spencer Tomset View profile earlier, so high class. But for one thing, UTSA, as we endearingly call it, and ironic that going to Texas State, UTSA is considered a rival. And so I kind of hate UTSA from a fan perspective. But I'm like, it's a decent school. I know people there. It's all right. But UTSA did not have a communications school. They've only been around since 1969, so they're still, in school terms, relatively young. Whereas Texas State's been around since 1899. And as we jokingly say and seriously say in our marketing, we are the school that Lyndon Baines Johnson, the vice president and the president who succeeded Kennedy, went to. We have a statue in the middle of the quad. Students go and tap his statue fist for good luck during finals. So, yeah, there was that claim to fame. And I thought at first, well, maybe I can still try and transfer to Texas, which was my original goal. But then I thought I'd be transferring into a different school, the Moody School of Communications at Texas. The GPA requirements are insane. And while I had a good, solid 3.1 GPA, they only take at least 3.3. And in reality, according to my cousin who went there, yeah, boost that up 2 digits, 3.5. You're not getting in with no credits. So I decided to go take a look at the school that was literally in between San Antonio and Austin perfectly. A school called Texas State University. I know we don't trademark but the Texas State University. Took a trip of the campus, loved it. It was a beautiful scene, a nice small Austin-like town without all the commercialized traffic. And I heard great things about their School of Mass Comm and Journalism. And I thought this could be the perfect place to get hands-on experience. Because as you guys know, the bigger you go to a school that's, say, in the Power 5, the less likely you are to get that experience you need right away to screw up. Because they just won't give it to anybody. It's too much of a product. As good as it is to see, it sucks. Because some kids don't get that opportunity until 2 years down the road.
Yep.
Yeah. And plus, I didn't have the hindsight to go and do full research and look at all of the schools across the country. Otherwise, I probably would have looked at Syracuse, because obviously, if you want to go become great at sportscasting, you go to Syracuse. Either way, whatever. So, decided to transfer there, got in, luckily. They didn't let me leave. And I spent a semester there without actually doing anything while I got my feet wet, moved into a new apartment, all that sort of stuff for the first time. Dad paid for it, but still, independence. And I was actually sitting down in the bottom of the student center one night on this big L-shaped couch, and there was a guy at the opposite end of the couch. And I told him why I transferred. I wanted to call games, and I heard that their radio station, KTSW 89.9, gave students that opportunity to call Texas State games. And he actually told me, wow, this is a coincidence. I work for the sports department at KTSW, and I work as a play-by-play broadcaster. I'm like, ha, what a world.
Perfect.
Yeah. And he said 2 weeks later, the applications were open. You should apply. And applied December 9th, 2016, after the interview. They told me I was accepted. And I'm like, this is great. And then I get to the orientation meeting, and there are all these guys around the table, and they've all been wanting to do sports since they were kids. And all I can think is, oh God, I'm so far behind. I've got to work my butt off if I'm going to keep up with these guys that have wanted to do this and have known they wanted to do this since they were literally just out of diapers.
Jeez, flip.
Yeah.
Now I'm interested on that because certainly in undergrad we have a lot of hard time at times, especially all three of us are around the same age anyway. Like in our undergrads, I've had this conversation with several other colleagues or like undergrad students that I teach at Bama as well, where there's this hard balance of, are we doing the right thing by pursuing our careers and focusing on that? Or are we not living our life to the fullest when we're young and like partying, fraternity, like that kind of stuff? I'm wondering if that ever domino affected or had a sort of effect in your mind, or if you even have that sort of feeling right now of, should I have partied a little bit more when I was in undergrad?
Oh, yikes. Well, at the time, I was so focused on being the best that I could be because I felt like I was so far behind all these other guys that were more talented than me. I didn't even focus on that at all. I was just dead set on getting into the station, getting these opportunities, doing whatever I had to do to work my way up to being on air. Oh. And that was the only goal I had in mind. My whole life centered around that, for better and for worse. But I loved it at the time. I didn't know anything else. I just knew I got to go hard all the time. So in hindsight, there were some opportunities that maybe if I had done differently, I could have. But I got a few of those opportunities at grad school when I went to Belmont, which we'll talk about later and all that sort of stuff. But overall, I also realized that I'm kind of a personal, quiet individual. So all that party stuff, all that noise doesn't really appeal to me. Seeing people act a fool just because they're a little hopped up. I'd rather be the one that has the video camera so I can sell it later or blackmail. And
Jesus.
Hey, you never know. You never know. That's why you're always got to be on your best behavior, because you never know. We're in a world where everything is recorded now.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
You see, we're in a world where everything's recorded. You just use the trademark from the Ohio State University. So, my friend, that's come back to bite you. You're going to get sued for copyright trademark infringement.
I'll just say that you guys were holding my family against their will, and I was
and you're saying that on air, so they have this against you.
It's not true. It's not true. And by the way, Ohio State, you can't trademark the. It's
they did.
Word.
They did, though.
How stupid is that? Hot take number one. Trademarking the is basically like ripping off SpongeBob when he's writing his essay. Okay? Boing. It's awful. It's awful. I will never. Now, if I end up working at Ohio State, I will honor that respect and say, hey, you shouldn't be using the same way anyone who works at Texas says for some reason horns down is offensive. When in reality, it's just gamesmanship. I don't like it, but if you lose, you deserve to get the horns down. And since my alma mater, Texas State, just beat Texas baseball again, if they did the horns down, I'd be fine with it, because I'm like, yeah, that's right.
I don't even know where to
Oh,
go
boy.
from here on
Neither
that,
do
but
I. Neither
actually
do
I do. So let's hook back to Texas State, because you mentioned about having to outwork your colleagues and have to essentially laser focus on anything you could do to be on air. So through that experience of finishing your undergraduate degree, are there any sort of memories that stand out in your mind as either pivotal moments in your career or fond memories you look back upon?
Yeah.
Every
way he
time
just answered
he's
it.
got some great way of leading into it. Just yeah.
It
Goodness.
just
Thank
sounds
you.
like he's got something he just wants to share with us.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I don't talk to a lot of people most of my days. I'm a trained professional at this point who just only talks when the mic's on. So yeah, this is great. It feels like a social club. Either way. Either way. And by the way, no, we have not been drinking before this, guy, so no one think that. I've just had water. It's cool. I am autistic, so I'm a little more loose on it, at least when I get going. Either way, I can remember it was about a month into my time at Texas State's radio station, KTSW. My boss, a guy named Spencer, last name or first name, gosh, I can't even remember, to be honest with you. Not Spencer Tomset, obviously, but Kyle Spencer. There we go. That's the name. So, yeah, Spencer to Spencer. It's a good connection. Either way, he told me that Texas State baseball was doing an internet-only broadcast that weekend. It was about a month in February, and he asked me if I wanted to do the color analysis with the longtime voice of the Bobcats, who got his start as a student broadcaster at KTSW and was literally turned into the lead football guy while he was still getting his undergraduate done, and he's been there ever since. Brant Freeman, wonderful man, who's now the ESPN Plus broadcaster on a full-time salary. Thank goodness, because that's a harsh reality in this world, but we'll get into that later. Either way, I can remember being so excited because I'd literally spent, since my days at UTSA, every single night I could in my room watching games or highlights on a computer screen, calling the action, thinking, I got the voice. This is going to be great. I'm going to be like Kevin Harlan. This is awesome. And I remember getting into that first half inning of work with him, thinking I was prepared. And oh God, how wrong I was to say that after the first half inning, maybe the first two, where I'm just trying to find a way to add some analysis as a guy who never played baseball, which is awesome. I can remember having an internal monologue with myself while Brand was just getting through his notes during a commercial break and thinking, oh my God, what am I thinking? I can't do this. This is insane. I got to talk for 3 more hours? This is awful. I'm terrible. I have made a terrible decision. I got to walk out right now and avoid the embarrassment. And I just remember being in that state of being a scared feral cat for the rest of the broadcast. But we got through it, and somehow I didn't run away afterwards. I just kept going and going. And then after a couple of times being an analyst, students had to call the softball games. There was no professional doing that. And I got my chance in February, right after I turned 20, to call my first radio broadcast of Texas State softball. And I can remember us going through a commercial break, and my producer, who'd been there longer than me, was a student, but had been there longer than me, saying, what do you want to do, boss? And I'm like, oh, God, I don't know. Why are you asking me? I'm like, because you're running the broadcast. You're in charge. I'm like, this is great. And they were up. Texas State was 9-1 in the end of the top of the 5th inning versus Incarnate Word. And I was cueing it like, we'll be back for the bottom of the 5th. And my color announcer right next to me says, it's over. I'm like, what? Oh, it's over. Yeah, they run ruled them. Oh, great.
Well then.
Yeah, I'm a fraud. So this is great. And that's when you realize, when you're starting out as confident as you are, all that work you put behind the scenes, once you have those moments, you realize there is so much I don't know, and I have got to get to work right now. Otherwise, I am going to embarrass myself right out of this booth. So those are some memories.
So how did obviously that transit, just to follow up, when you said, you found out like after like the game, you're like, oh, it's game over. Like, how did you bounce back from those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, like, how did you take those as a learning curve? Like, what did you do to follow up with that?
Oh, wow. Well, I made sure to read the rule book for one. That was a big help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. First off, 8 runs after 5 innings. If you're the home team, it's like you only play like the top of the ninth. It's over. All right, cool. Got that. Didn't learn every rule in the book that night, but made sure to learn at least the important ones.
Yep.
That way I don't sound like a complete idiot, because I wish I was told that off air, Joe, but he said that during the broadcast.
Yep.
So I was an idiot for maybe the 2 people that were listening to see or hear. And got through that, walked back to my apartment, which was on the other side of campus, but was right next to campus. So I never had to drive anywhere, which was nice.
Oh,
Yes, that is nice.
And yeah, but it was that dark, like sad Keanu sort of walk back in a pity parade, thinking, oh, okay, Reily, you think you're hot stuff right now? I don't think so. So you got to get to work right now. Otherwise, you are not going to get anywhere doing this, because you're working with professionals. You're working with passionate people. So you got to find out what exactly you're made of right now and get to work.
And like
That's
find that
what
motivation.
Yes. Of which I've now managed to turn it into motivation to have fun. But early on, there's a lot of fear in it, because I just don't want to embarrass myself again and come across as not an expert at what I call, because obviously if you don't sound like you know what you're talking about, and if you really don't know what you're talking about, you lose credibility.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I can imagine having those like pity walks coming back down the stretch on that kind of thing. Especially there's been plenty of times I've had that with certain stuff I've said on air or not said on air. And Joe already, mentioned it with trying to have that bounce back. But how did you handle it in that moment when your analyst said that? Like, do you remember what you said afterwards? Because on television, you got to or television or radio, you got to still react quickly.
I can remember saying, "Oh, okay, it's over." I just took his word. I know exactly. It was the first broadcast, and I was an idiot, as we have already highlighted. So
don't sell yourself short, buddy. Don't sell yourself short.
Oh no,
that's not what we highlighted.
That's not short. That's long. That's selling favorably. And I joked with my dad the other night that when he joked for all the experiences I'm building up here, put in your memoirs. I'm like, yes, the title will be Reily Chestnut, Idiot Savant, Hold the Savant.
Hold the Savant. Oh goodness! I think you listened clearly to our Kendrick Haskins episode and our Darren Vaught and Darren Vaught episodes. I think you've mixed all those together and started talking. I don't even think the Kendrick episode is published by the time that we've recorded
this moment. It's not out.
I think it's supposed to be tomorrow or something. So he somehow has some insider information that we don't about getting into that whole goofball section of the podcast. I love it.
Hey, this is what I do.
Let's as I try to steer the ship. Let's talk about the Bruins, specifically the Belmont Bruins. And Joe has a master. One of the things that all 3 of us share, which was the same with Darren when he was on the show, all 3 of us have master's degrees. And it's intriguing because this was funny. I had a conversation with the PhD program lead here at the University of Alabama, Dr. Jameson Hayes. And he was talking about how most undergraduate programs, they don't really give that much of, they're not really giving full rides as much anymore for undergrad. And more important, on a step of that, most employers are not really valuing bachelor's degrees as much as they used to. And there's a lot of things you could tidbit on there to different factors and such. Because I know especially during the pandemic, a lot of people decided to go back to school instead of trying to go into the workforce, especially in the sports media, sports broadcasting landscape. Because especially with the uncertainty of jobs in sport and whether sport was going to come back or not, people are going, okay, let me stay in school for another 2 years and hopefully this is all cleared out at that point. And fortunately, it was pretty much cleared out at that point. I'm interested to know, in your case, what led you to go to Belmont University?
Well, After I was done with Texas State, and I can remember having distinct conversations with one of my mentors there, who was a longtime sports media guy, covered the Longhorns way back in the day, actually lost his voice in a car wreck when he was in the prime of his career and got it back through a lot of therapy. So he was an inspiration to me. But he was a real hard-nosed, old-school guy, and him and I were of the same agreement that I don't need to go to get a graduate degree. I mean, just go get experience, Reily. Go get real-world experience. You're not going to get any by staying in school. I'm like, I absolutely agree. So when I left Texas State, I got my first job in August of 2019 in South Dakota, Aberdeen, South Dakota, at a small radio hub where I would get to call high school sports, but I'd also get to be a DJ, a producer, and all that sort of stuff. But it was on nearly $29,000 a year with health insurance. So I thought, I am rich. Yeah, I could afford my apartment by myself, and I'm living halfway across the country. So I'm going to get a taste of something new, which, as a native Texan, that winter, woo, it's not that it feels any different once it gets past zero. It's how fast your nose hairs freeze.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that was a trip. I can remember actually veering off in the conversation again and then getting back on topic. I can remember taking a stop at a stoplight ready to turn right, and I Grand Theft Auto drifted my way into the left lane without even driving forward. And I thought, oh God, don't die. Yep. Okay, we're good. Yeah, just steer into it. It's like cars turning left to go right, that sort of thing. But I got that job, and I was there until literally the same day that Rudy Gobert tested positive. I'd been told earlier that morning that the high school that I was doing games for didn't raise enough money to keep their coverage, so they were dropping that. And as a result, I was being dropped because they don't want to keep a $29,000 DJ who clearly has a passion for play-by-play in sports. And so on the one hand, I appreciated them saying they didn't want to hold me back, which I think was partially true. But on the other hand, I think it was a nice way of saying, we're cutting you. And this is an easier way to say it. Either way, I had my first radio experience, my first job. I get laid off. Yep. Yay. And I have to work at a Walmart through the rest of the pandemic up in South Dakota till my lease ends and I go back home, to which I then spend the next 9 months working at a Batteries Plus Bulb store doing some freelancing. A buddy of mine sets me up with my first on-camera play-by-play job doing a high school football team season, which was fun. I wasn't great, and I've got a lot to learn, but it was fun to get that chance and experience because someone liked me enough to give me an opportunity, and by all accounts, it seemed to work. And still keep in touch with those guys. But I was going around, and I knew that all the fall sports like volleyball, soccer were being pushed back to the spring. So I thought there's going to be a lot of colleges that have turnover and a lot of double crossover on top of regular crossover. So I thought, okay, can't hurt to reach out, see if anyone needs an extra hand. And my great aunt, who's been based in Memphis, Tennessee for 4 decades, nearly 5, I can't even recall. She's been there longer than I've been alive, but she worked at Rhodes College for a number of years and is kind of like the female pioneer there who started a lot of their women's programs, a Hall of Famer at Rhodes College. And she knew this kid that went to school there named John Langdon, who has now been at Belmont as the compliance director for really my whole life since 1997. And she gave me his email. I reached out to him and asked if they would need any help at Belmont, not even realizing that it was in Nashville. And he said, no, but we do have this great master's program that has set up a lot of people who put in good work here with opportunities in college athletics, which is exactly what I wanted, including a couple people who went on to broadcasting careers. So I looked at all their stuff and realized that, they've got something nice going on here. A small private school in the middle of a major market. So you get involved here. They're the only GA sport admin program of theirs in town. So a lot of the internships that a lot of the professional and sports organization in Nashville use, they come from Belmont. Yep. I thought, oh, this is perfect. So I thought, what the hey? Is Joe raising your hand?
Yeah, I have a follow-up when you're just really quickly. How did that affect you when you got laid off? How did obviously it doesn't feel great, but how did that still keep you motivated to be the best you can be?
Woof. Well, When it happened, I was emotional. I was upset because I thought, man, if I'd done my other duties a little bit better, then maybe they wouldn't feel like they had to let me go and would keep me around just because. Because at that time, I actually was doing a mock practice run on one of the TV monitors in my studio, or computer monitors, when my boss came in and called me into the office and told me that that was happening. And I thought on the instant, it's because he didn't see me prepping for my next voice tracking shift. And so this is the reason. And that hurt. But ultimately, it turned out to be what it turned out to be. And it all led to the right path in the end. So I didn't get too hurt by it. And ultimately, I took what they said as what it was. They didn't want to hold me back. They saw that my passion was in this. So I at least appreciated that fact. Now, there are two sides to that. And obviously, I can see where they were just trying to sweeten the blow and make themselves feel better as much as make me feel better. But whatever. It is what it is. And we got through the first and worst months of the pandemic wearing a face mask every day, working at Walmart in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and then went back home. And so I was able to survive that. And man, I keep saying that's a broadcasting sin, isn't it? I don't say and that much on air at all, really, never, which thank goodness. Maybe sometimes I could afford to breathe with it. But I applied to Belmont. I reached out to a couple people there because I saw they had a couple of grad assistantships that would take a lot of the tuition costs out of it for me, while also giving me opportunities. Now, none of these opportunities went to me because they went to far more qualified people who had more experience in these fields, including my ex-roommate, who I roomed with for 2 years while we were there and is one of my best friends to this day. When at the time I see he got the job and I'm looking at him like, this guy, I'm gonna kick his butt. I'm gonna be the best thing they ever forgot, and that sort of thing. I had that dog in me. I had that chip. They're doubting me. I know I can do this. When in reality, I saw what he went through, and I'm like, yeah, no, I can't. No, yeah, he's the right person for this. And so I ended up rooming with him, which worked in my favor because once we moved to Nashville, he had a direct line to the guy who was running all the broadcasts because he was helping him as a GA. And this lovely individual who still works at Belmont to this day was a undergrad there who went through the same program and was hired right out of that master's program to run the entire video operations. And I kept in touch with him and the director of all broadcasting and media relations, Greg Sage, who's been there for 20 years, and just told them, hey, this is my background. I have all this experience. And if you ever need any help with anything, camera work, graphics, I don't care. I'll do it. And they appreciated that, put me on camera for a couple soccer matches, built up some sympathy for the amount of tension I built up in my shoulders working a camera near the goalpost, and did some graphic work. And then one day my roommate knocks on my room because he hears me doing a mock broadcast and tells me, we got a soccer match between Belmont and a then ranked North Carolina Greensboro team. Since we're on the topic of Greensboro, they're very good at soccer. And they were in the same conference at the time. It was their final home match of the season over at ES Rose Park in Nashville. And the men's team was having a phenomenal year where if they could get this win, they'd finish undefeated at home for the first time ever. And they asked me if I wanted to do it. And I'm like, heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do it. Yeah. I'd never called soccer before since Texas State on radio. So I've never done soccer on TV or really ESPN Plus. I've done like a Zodiac Studios football broadcast on TV or internet TV style, but I've never done ESPN Plus. So I'm like, yes, this is it. We're going to do it. We're going to kick butt. And I didn't blow it. And they kept inviting me back. So that when the spring came around, I was traveling back to Nashville for New Year's, and I got an email from Christian and Greg saying, we need someone to do softball games on the 2022 spring season, and we think you'd be great for it. I'm like, yes, let's do it. And I can remember calling my dad and telling him, he's like, oh my God, you're going to be on TV. This is so awesome. And I'm like, yeah, we're making it. We're making it. So we did that. It went well. And then they made me the full-time soccer guy next fall in 2022 fall season action. So I did that season of soccer for the men and the women on ESPN Plus as much as I could. Only missed one game. And then I did another season of softball, which by this time I did something that I consider very smart. I bought my own equipment, including a Sennheiser crowd mic, because it was recommended to me by Dave Friedman, who was the longtime voice of Winthrop, and told me, yeah, invest in this kit. I found out what kind of equipment that the Belmont broadcasts were being used for radio. So I got myself a mini mixer headset for $150 all around. It wasn't too much to ask. And so not only did we do softball on ESPN Plus, but I said, I can do an audio broadcast if you want. That way we have even more coverage. And they're like, great, we won't pay you. But I'm like, I don't care. So we did that. And I managed to make 2 years out of a heck of an experience working with a lot of fantastic people. And more importantly, learning what exactly a college athletics culture of high standards and good folks should be.
I have to ask, master's degree, did they make you do a thesis or did you do a professional project?
No thesis, luckily. I don't know if I would have had the patience for that. One thing I really loved about that program is it wasn't so much about the coursework, it was about the internships we would get, the real world experience. They really emphasized that the whole point of this program is so that you guys can get real world experience in a bustling sports market and make connections. Because ultimately, you're not going to get anything if you don't make good connections once you leave here. So you have to have 5 internship credits in this 2-year master's program. Otherwise, you don't graduate. So I got my 5 by being first semester. I was an intern for a sports radio talk show with a local legend there named George Plaster. I was a Vanderbilt marketing intern, which was a weird experience, but we got through it. Got to see a couple of terrible Vanderbilt football games from the top where we rung the horn every time they scored a touchdown, which felt like once every 2 weeks. And in fact, I was on the horn for Vanderbilt's 2021 game against Georgia when there was more red in that stadium. And the only time I rang that horn was for the final 30 minutes before kickoff. The closest they came was a Joseph Bulovas missed 38-yard field goal in a 62-0 loss. And I thought, well, this is boring.
Oh, goodness. That's the way that graduate programs should be, in my opinion, focusing more on what you're actually going to do afterwards. That's one of the several problems with academia, in my opinion, is they focus too much more on the coursework and the academic papers and publish or perish side of things. So, and there's some graduate programs that are starting to retweak their master's side and a little bit in the doctoral side on some programs that are going towards that. So I'm glad you had that opportunity to be able to head through there in that kind of circumstance with everything. On your time at Belmont as well, you mentioned how you broadcasted several games, ESPN Plus, did Belmont Bruins and everything. And part of that as well, you also were in the side of being a sales rep for ticket packages, which we've talked about a ton with the baseball broadcasters we've had in the past, where it's doesn't matter how good your demo reel is, they'll look at you and say, they'll say, all right, you're a broadcaster, you got to sit here, sell the season tickets, got to call the phone and try to get people to things. And you were also for the hopefully you know tennis a little bit with being the media relations and social media coordinator on there, but I'm interested to know about how that portion helped prepare you to be able to call different sports.
Good questions. My first experience outside of broadcasting at Belmont was being the de facto social media manager and sports information director in the spring 2022 season while I was doing all these softball broadcasts for the Belmont tennis programs, who were at the time coached by only 2 coaches who covered both teams. And I can remember trying to create some buzz on social media by posting live reactions. We weren't getting a lot of in-depth feeds or like one-on-one personal interviews, but by putting some energy into the way I retweeted some big moments during matches, whether it was slow-mo replays, capturing the big moment more often than what was seen in the past, that's how I felt I could stand out by going 100% at that job and just trying to have as much fun with it as possible. And by all accounts, the people that followed appreciated it. We got some boost in in followership on Twitter, which is where I did most of my work. Instagram was involved a little bit, but not as much because that's not really the base audience we're going for most of the time. But we did have some work with it. Got to create some graphics with Sidearm Sports and Sideout Sports, which was cool. Wrote recaps, which I'd already gotten a flavor of that before I even went to Nashville, because the summer before I moved to Nashville, highlighting that minor league baseball experience, I was in the summer leagues in the West Coast League up in Wenatchee, Washington, calling the Apple Sox. Because they're big on apples up there, and they put Sox in there apparently because there's a lot of iconic baseball franchises with Sox in the name. White Sox, Red Sox, Blue Sox, Red Stockings, whatever. It is what it is. And assistant communications director for the Wenatchee Apple Sox, who was the number 2 broadcaster, while also working the scoreboard during our home games, updating it as the game went on. That was fun. That was real hell, if there's a word. But we got through it, and it taught me how to be more versatile and more multi-brained, if I can use that word properly. Multifaceted. Yeah, that's a better way, because a lot of broadcasters who have these first jobs, they have to do multiple things. They can't just broadcast because that's not enough to make a living. Some are SIDs, like the guy over at ULM, and then Tyler Merriam up at South Dakota State. He's the de facto SID and has been the voice of the Jackrabbits for years. Does a lot of things for him up there and does them well. I can remember going to watch his booth when I was in South Dakota when they were playing Illinois State, and it was Hobo Day. Apparently there's a state holiday where people dress up as hobos, and they were all in that game watching the Jackrabbits play before they won a couple national titles. But you learn how to become comfortable being uncomfortable. That's what I learned a lot of at that program, trying to get comfortable and uncomfortable with so many different things. Because after my experience in South Dakota, where despite how good I was at my job, I was expendable simply because they don't value the broadcaster as much as someone who can broadcast and do other things. That's what made me so determined to try and get different experiences. And I gotten in with people. I'd made friends with some people. I'd always been around the office just trying to be friendly and say hi to folks. And the director of sales and sponsorship at the time, Tommy Henry, took a liking to me, thought I was a good person, liked the way I sounded, and thought, well, do you want to sell some tickets for us? I'm like, I got to think about it. And he eventually convinced me to give it a try. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of no's that first 2 months of the summer. But once I got that first yes, he said it. It's like crack. You just you can't not do it, because once you get that first hit, it's an adrenaline rush.
Oh my God.
I know this is going to be the rated R version of your show.
I think I'm more concerned for Joe over here because the analogies are good, but Joe is going like, oh no, the ratings.
The ratings. No. Rated R for Reily. Either way. But yeah, those experiences taught me a lot, in that if I wanted to get anywhere and at least have more opportunities to get my foot in the door to where I eventually want to be, which is director of broadcasting for a school, simply a full-time salaried employee with health insurance. I used to shoot for like national big-time stuff, but now I'd just be happy getting a dream job where I can just have health insurance and afford to raise a family. That, if I can get that, I am good. Anything else that comes after that is apple pie to me.
I gotcha. Reily, one of the next questions we have for you is obviously you're currently at Western Kentucky University, being the voice of the Lady Toppers.
Go Tops!
Just describe, like, obviously you've been there for just describe some of your favorite elements in the first 10 months, and also, just to see you at the Conference USA rivalry.
Well, on the women's side, I have the mixed glass of one of the teams I cover is the Titan of the conference, WKU Volleyball. They've been the dominant force in Conference USA since they joined. And they're one of the best in the country for a reason. Regular top 25, one of the best mid-majors. One of only 10 NCAA D1 volleyball teams with a full-time radio broadcaster like me, and one of only 3 that is in Power 5. So Texas doesn't even have one. They've just won back-to-back national championships, for Pete's sakes.
Oh, man.
I know. It's crazy. So I feel very proud of the fact that I'm in a rare niche, which in this field, if you can find a way to stand out, that's a pretty good way to do it if you're covering something that not a lot of people tend to cover. And it happens to be one of the fastest growing sports in the country.
Yep.
Like volleyball is taking off, and
It
it's
really is.
fantastic. It's the athletic equivalent to what men's college basketball means, because these women, especially at the highest levels, these are some of the greatest female athletes I've ever seen.
yeah.
Oh, they're
Like that.
in really good shape too.
Oh my goodness, the leaping ability. Like, I just want one time for a cross promotion where we have volleyball players doing a dunk contest. I just want to see it once.
One time. That'd be
One
great.
time. Because anyone that has anything against women's college basketball, which I get, it's not men's college basketball, it's not men's basketball. There's a lot less athleticism above the rim. That doesn't make it any less than basketball. I mean, look at what Caitlin Clark's doing.
Yep.
She is revolutionizing the game. And hopefully, once she's gone, the fans who were bought into college basketball because they saw her play
Stay.
will now realize that, stay. Support this stuff, because without it, she wouldn't have a platform to do what she's done.
Mm-hmm.
So even though she can't dunk the basketball, she is the Steph Curry of her generation, which nowadays, being able to hit a logo level 3 is the modern equivalent to what dunking in the 80s and posterizing someone used to be. It's become that impactful.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got to ask on that, because I think we may have lightly talked about this in North Carolina last year, but I want to make sure for the viewers to know, what was that moment like for you to get the call from Western Kentucky of that, hey, we want you to be the next voice of the Lady Toppers?
Oh man, that was a cool moment. I came up. It was about late March. I was still doing Belmont softball, and they had a game at Western Kentucky. So I was making the trip up with them to do the audio broadcast, and I was doing my thing at the end of press row. And in the middle of it all was the previous guy who had the job, Brad Klein, who got it right out of Syracuse, another Syracusean winning the pipeline battle. But very good at what he does, and now he's voicing Southern Indiana men's basketball in the OVC and doing very well at it. He came over to me after our broadcasts were done and complimented my work, because he could hear some of it in his headset being only 3 chairs away. And I was having fun. It was a good game. And Belmont won. Go Bruins. Either way, he told me that he liked what I said and how I did my job, and I appreciated him. And I realized that he was the voice of the Lady Toppers, because I had gone for that job once I saw it posted, and it ended up going to him because the guy who had it before Brad and me is a friend of mine, Brett Williams, who had the job for 4 years. We actually met at National Sports Media Association Convergence Summit when he was out of his first year at WKU. So once he saw that I got the job, it was kind of a full circle moment for both of us, since I met him when he was the voice of the Lady Toppers all those years ago, sitting at a table with him when we're both just a couple of average Joes trying to make it. And he's doing well. Now he's at South Carolina, his alma mater, working in the Honors College and doing some freelance work with the Gamecocks on SEC Network Plus for volleyball and basketball. So I'm happy for him. But Brad told me that he was going to be leaving after his 1 year. And I asked him if it'd be okay if I could go for the job. And he said, yeah, it wasn't the experience I wanted, but a job's a job. And I think you'd have a good chance to do it. So here's who you email. And about a month later, I emailed the guy, the GM of the Learfield property here, making it seem like, hey, I'm about to graduate. And if you need any help with Brad or Randy, who's been the voice of Hilltopper football and men's basketball for 17 years now, I'll be around. I want to stay in this region, knowing that the job was going to be open, but I just want to be here and help. And he got back to me literally 30 minutes later saying, yeah, we're actually looking for a new voice of the Lady Toppers. I'm like, how about that? And he asked me if I wanted to come up for an interview since it was only an hour north of Nashville. And I'm like, yes. When can we do it? Next Monday. I was so excited, got dressed up out of work, got on the road so I'd be there with an hour to kill before the interview at 4. And I'm about 38 minutes up I-65, and it is standstill traffic.
Yep. Horrible
Yeah.
I-65 North.
Yep, it was, because that day a semi rolled over and took out 7 cars when there was already Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so I was literally cursing in my seat, thinking, are you kidding me, God? Right now? Really? Right now? It's only the biggest interview of my life. The break I've been waiting for 6+ years. I didn't even know it was going to exist until a month ago. And you're taking it away from me now. But kept Chris informed of the situation. And he said, well, you're probably not going to make it before I have to go pick up my daughter from daycare. I'm like, being a father sucks. Either way, jokingly so. Kids are precious, and I hope to one day have my own. Either way, we rescheduled for a week after that, and naturally, all the insecurity in me is bubbling up. Like, if that was my chance, what if he's interviewing other people, and he likes this guy that gets the interview on Tuesday so much that he rescinds the offer for me to come up? And I'm like, oh, this is horrible. Right. So once I calmed down and got some assurance from a few of my colleagues, they're like, no, they're going to interview you. It's fine. They like you. They're going to bring you up and talk to you. And so the week goes by. I'm nervous as heck. I actually get off my work shift at a Bellmead Country Club, working in the tennis shop, since tennis is a theme. And I actually get a hotel room in Bowling Green for Sunday night. That way I do not have an excuse to miss this Monday interview at noon. And so I do that, get up there, no hiccups. We cross the border. We're safe. And get up the next morning, dress up again, the same suit I was wearing last Tuesday or Monday. And we go in, and it wasn't even really an interview. It was more like they wanted to tell me, hey, we like you. We want to give you the job if you want it. And I said, yeah, sure. And I walked out of EA Diddle Arena into the parking lot, called my mom, told her I got the job, and she cried. And it was awesome.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I had that similar situation happen to me in August of last year. Now, mine wasn't a car accident, but I had scheduled my car to get a vehicle inspection in the state of Alabama for because I side gig with Uber and Lyft, and I had scheduled it with Firestone, and they did not bring the car back into the bay until 2.5 hours afterwards, and I was supposed to be on site with the director of Alabama's Adapted Athletics because I purposely scheduled. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be in town, and I had to be there for a different reason. But I was like, hey, I'm gonna be in town. Let's go ahead and schedule this and get it done. And I purposely scheduled, 2 hours beforehand. But for a 15-20 minute inspection took almost 3 hours for it to get done. So I had to rearrange my schedule and still get there later in the day. And they fortunately still were okay with reschedule and everything like that. But yeah, that's not fun when everything seems to have been aligned perfectly, but then a detriment's there. So fortunately for you, it didn't seem to detriment.
Yeah, thank God we're pretty, Spencer.
We just had this thing about we were talking earlier about the whole face for radio thing, and
you know what? That's a bunch of crap. Okay, face for radio. We got voices for radio. Radio isn't faces. Okay, so that joke is already built on an impossible platform. All right, and I'm gonna kick it down like a tsunami hitting a coastline house and knocking its stilts off. All right.
What's going on? What is going on?
I know. I don't even know if I want to transition to this because you've already given a bunch of hot takes throughout, but as promised, so we already talked to Darren Vaughn about his take on My Life as a Zucchini, which, dude, I thought that I honestly, when you hear the title My Life as a Zucchini, I should have said this to Darren. It sounds like a dang VeggieTales movie. Like, sounds like we got the sequel. We already had Pirates Who Don't Do Anything and Jonah VeggieTales movie. My Life as a Zucchini is going to be the next third to make the trifecta. But anyways, and
like, what's the plot of My Life as a Zucchini? You're left in the fridge for 3 weeks and then thrown out when you spoil. Yeah, sounds real depressing, Darren.
I don't know if he's ever going to listen to this episode, but if he does, we're going to be chirping back and forth to Greensboro. Oh my gosh! But all right, we got an episode that will have published at this point where we talked to Josh Graham about his horrible take on saying cookies and cream is the best Pop-Tart flavor, and we roasted each other back and forth on it. It was a fun time. So I hadn't had the chance to do a deep.
Come on.
Oh, I did the whole thing of bringing out props. I have the new frosted. Hold on, I got them right here. Actually, I got
product placement.
Product placement. This is the new flavor, frosted chocolate chip pancake with Pop-Tarts. So that stuff's good.
That sounds nice.
There's the case of s'mores. I think it's here somewhere, but there's the OG, the proper flavor for the Pop-Tarts. But anyways, yeah. As much as I am decent at research, I did not do a deep dive on your social media to see if I could find some sort of hot take that you have that was absolute garbage. So let's just open it up.
That's because then none of them are garbage, all right?
All right. Which hill do you want to die on other than the WKU Hilltoppers hill? Which hill do you want to open up to try and die on with Joe and I?
I will take Tim Duncan over Kobe Bryant any day of the week.
Whoa.
I'm Tim Duncan over Kobe Bryant. Well, I mean, it's okay to have wrong opinions.
Yeah.
Okay. What's wrong with winning consistently, going to the playoffs every year with him as your franchise piece, never having a sexual assault allegation against you because he didn't get into trouble cheating on his wife? Ironic that his wife ended up cheating on him and he had to divorce her. Yikes. But I grew up in San Antonio. I'm a Spurs fan, and I respect Kobe. I respect the game, Mamba mentality all the way, and I was heartbroken that day when I was in South Dakota and found out he died in a helicopter crash because that was awful.
Yeah.
And as time goes on and I see more of who he was and how people talk about him, I respect him. I do. He's one of the best players of all time, and no doubt one of the best competitors of all time. But Timmy's my guy. He delivered so much joy to my city. He made us relevant, and he turned us into one of the greatest franchises from a consistency standpoint in sports. And he did it all without creating any trouble, any mayhem. He just came in and did the work.
Well, Joe seemed to react a little more vehemently than I did. But Joe, you want to challenge him on it? I thought he was just going to go, no. and just try to move on. That would have been funny.
I mean, obviously, everyone has the right to their own opinions. Obviously, I think I was thinking of it like as two different positions. One's a power forward, one's a shooting guard. So
right.
Look at it like that. Now, in their respective positions, definitely up there. But compared, it's hard to compare, in my opinion, because I said two different positions. So it's
right.
But Kobe definitely could deliver in crunch time. So Tim Duncan, obviously you could say a little bit, Tim had Ginobili and Parker to work with. Brian had Shaq to work with. He had
Powell.
Yes. So they both had other two really good role players that were able to help them. So, but
that being said, name an all-time great player who didn't win a championship without having an all-time great coach or a good coach, a couple of all-time great teammates, which, I mean, Kobe, they hail Kobe as this revolutionary all-time figure later in his career, but he wasn't winning anything until he got Powell. It's just called straight up. His teams were getting bounced in the first round or not making the playoffs when he was alone. So
at first, the way the question was going, I thought you were going to say Jordan, but I'm like, but he had, but like, and what I was saying is, but if he could take it over by himself too, he didn't need Rodman, he didn't need Pippen. He had Phil Jackson as his head coach, but goddamn, was he a good player.
Now here's a better question on that: which player has been ejected more times in their career? Kobe or Tim? Timmy. That's it. I still remember that clip.
By one of the most sensitive officials of all time, Mr. Joey Crawford, ladies and gentlemen, ejecting him for laughing on the bench.
Well, I think it was building up to that point of like happening multiple times, and because again, we weren't on the bench. We were not Joey. We didn't hear what was being said on the floor, the kind of stuff he said. But so that's a part of it. But we're not talking about Joey Crawford instead of like the player stuff. But it's it's one of those things of like, we weren't there, we don't know what was said, but it was probably he was saying more stuff that was instead of the sensitivity layer. And when an official warns you, you don't. If you already have one tech, you don't cross that line, no matter what happens.
That's the thing. I don't think Timmy didn't have a tech at all. He didn't have anything. He wasn't even in the game. He was just laughing.
He wasn't in the game, but he got 2 techs. That was his second one, because it's 2 techs that you're ejected unless you do something absolutely egregious that goes immediately. But Tim had that was his second tech.
Well, I guess I didn't watch that game. Huh.
Either
way,
outside
go.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, my last one will be Greg Popovich, greatest coach of all time. I don't know if that's as much a hot take, but that's the one I would stand by.
I respect it. I respect it.
All right.
Yeah.
I was going to say
from both levels respect him.
I was going to say outside the sports realm, because we talked about again zucchini movie, Pop-Tarts. Is there any hill you want to die on?
Go Big Red, greatest mascot of all time. At least most unique one in college sports, in my opinion, an amorphous hill-like figure. No offense to your MTSU Blue Raiders, who don't even use the SU most of the time.
Yeah, they've changed a whole bunch of their mascots over the years, and they finally settled on the Blue Raiders. I'm just waiting for the time the athletic department comes out and says, "Hey, we're changing it again," because that's different in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very true. Oh man, I don't really get into that hot take territory because one of the guys I worked with at Texas State, he wanted to be the hot take guy, the sports talk show host that said all the things that make people upset. He was the contrarian. And at times he'd say it and you wonder, you're not really serious, are you? And you kind of got the feeling that he was just saying it to say it. So I learned a long time ago that hot takes are not really my thing if I think about it. Maybe if I'm off the cuff and feeling loose and it just comes up, it happens. But I do remember getting into a debate with one of the subordinates I hired at Texas State when I was the sports director about whether Kevin Love was a Hall of Famer, to which I said no, and I still think he isn't.
I don't think he's either.
He's a Hall of Very Good, but didn't have enough of a window where he was the best in the business, which he had about 3 years, where he was considered one of the best bigs in the game.
All right, Riley. Now I have a hot take for you.
Oh boy.
I eat out a lot.
I was going to start getting into the food side of things, because especially Bowling Green. Bowling Green is it holds a record in the United States of the most restaurants per square mile or something like that within its city limits. I'm pretty sure it's either most restaurants per capita or per square mile. It's something along those lines. So Bowling Green's got a lot of restaurants. So Joe, what you got?
Okay, I'm going to give you 3 times to eat. You got breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All right? Best fast food breakfast place.
I'm a big Dunkin' guy because my breakfast is usually coffee.
Okay, mine's McDonald's. So,
you have never been to Waffle House. You are.
I've been to Waffle House.
Okay,
I got one down the street.
Okay. And Spencer's remark, we don't have many Waffle Houses near here.
Okay,
well, I remember when me and you went to the NSMA and we had breakfast at one time. I will admit, Waffle House, very good.
Yeah. Your closest thing is Denny's, like that you have up in the Northeast.
Denny's is clutch.
But compared to Waffle House, it's not as good. Like, you have the 3 major breakfast places that are open like 24 hours in most places. You got Waffle House, IHOP, and Denny's. It's pretty much Waffle House. I've had all 3. I've gone through all of them. They have their unique elements, but still, Waffle House is we have a dang scale for the national, I think, not weather service, but like the Coast Guard. We have a national scale for the national disaster or scale, something like that, where you have 3 different levels at Waffle House: green, yellow, red. If it's green, full service and it's open. Yellow, limited menu, but it's still open. Red, Waffle House is completely closed. You need to get out of there. So we have a literal scale in the United States government that shows if Waffle House is still open, you could still stay in the area. Like, if that doesn't tell you how good of a place it is and how much it stands, then I don't know what does.
I mean, everyone's got their own flavor. I'm personally more of a pancakes guy.
Me too. I like
Yeah.
regular pancakes.
I enjoy a good chocolate chip pancake. I'm talking about the overall experience of waffle. It's Southern hibachi. Like it's Southern hibachi and everything.
It's Southern hibachi.
Yeah, it is. It's straight up Southern hibachi. You got the guy on the grill chopping up the eggs, like serving them up with the ladles and everything. Like it's Southern hibachi.
If I asked a guy who worked at Waffle House for a show with my food, he would probably slap me in the face.
No, he'd try to do something with the egg and then he'd fling it onto a customer and everyone would laugh. Simple as that.
Exactly.
But, all right,
I don't want to get burned by griddle.
We're split on breakfast. Joe, I think you're saying lunch.
I gotta go. Well, I'm a main go is chicken tenders and fries.
How basic.
Yeah, I was about to say just one of the most basic answers I've ever heard.
I know.
But very good.
I used to do Boston Market, but then their mac and cheese formula switched, and it's been, different story.
Reviews are mixed.
Yes,
Haven't been there yet.
I'm a. How inappropriate can I get on this podcast?
I mean, you've already said damn, and Reily already talked about crack. So, like, this is the rated R episode.
I used a comparison that elicited a reason to compare it to crack without actually having any experience. So,
yeah,
let's pause.
I know we already said this is the R-rated episode for Reily. So, I mean, just say it.
I'm gonna go McDonald's again. I was gonna do Taco Bell where you blow your brains out, but then I was like, nah, I want to go down that road.
Is that what you blow out?
Okay. All right. Hey,
I don't recall brains being in the equation with that.
Joe needs to clearly go out to different restaurants because the fact that you even have McDonald's on any of that list, I'll give you this. It is consistent. You know exactly what you're going to taste for the most part. There's very limited circumstances. You also don't. The ice cream machine never works. Why would you rate a place where unless you're lactose intolerant to where you can't even have the ice cream in the first place?
One more thing. We just had a Cane's put in locally about 20 minutes away, but the one food place I wish they would put in Maryland is Culver's.
Oh, okay. I go to
Wisconsin. Had one of those in Aberdeen.
Yeah, I go to Wisconsin where my grandparents live and my mom's side. I always go to Culver's. But if they had one here, I am telling you, it would be like the Chick-fil-A.
With the line going out the door and everything.
Yeah.
All right, Reily, lunch.
Lunch. Lunch. See, this is why I'm in the developmental stage of my career. All right. Kevin Harlan cracks his voice. No. Either way, lunch. Anything. Honestly, I get more involved with now that I've got a Ninja air fryer. I just like to make stuff in the air fryer. I got burgers I can make in the air fryer. It's fantastic.
So I have a little bit of recency bias, or more location bias, I will say, because at the which Reily, we need to get you down to Bryant-Denny Stadium at some point. If only you could take off that first game because WKU's coming down here for the home opener.
I know.
You could take that off for volleyball, but anyways,
I know. We scared Nick Saban into retiring.
We're not even going there. Bryant-Denny Stadium, College of Communication and Information Sciences. There's a walk down to what's called the Strip, which has a whole bunch of the bars that the undergrad students go to, but it has several restaurants.
Does it have chicken strips?
There is a chicken place there. I think what is it called?
My girlfriend went to Alabama, so she knows about the Strip very well.
Oh, I didn't know Taylor went to. I didn't know she bleeds Crimson Tide red. I didn't know that.
She went there for like a year, and then she transferred out. But she knows the Strip very well.
Okay.
I mean, Spencer, technically, we all bleed crimson red.
No, don't we? Well, you could also say we all bleed Hilltopper red, but
I mean, technically, it's a dark crimson red. I mean, there's no denying that.
So, within walking distance of the college is Chipotle, and I have found
roller burrito.
I've been eating it for years. My brother and I have also a special bond with it of going there anytime we're in town for Chipotle. So That is good for lunch. The problem is like when you get into lunch category, there's so many other different things. Like breakfast, you could kind of get to when it's like, but Chipotle's not even really like fast food per se. It's technically like fast casual in that category. But in terms of like fast food restaurants and everything, I'm kind of on the same vibe with you as Culver's. They have one in Birmingham, not here in Tuscaloosa, but they've got one in Franklin. And I'm always hitting up. Their custard is incredible. They got some good custard. Love the pretzel bites. Their mushroom Swiss burger. Their
the butter burgers.
The house root beer is actually really good too.
My dad,
good stuff there.
I swear the Midwest may have nothing there, but god damn, do they have any fast food?
Yes, they do.
They got some stuff. So I guess we're moving on to dinner, Joe.
Okay, I don't know if this place is around your guys' area. It's Cafe Rio.
No, I don't have one.
It's really good. I get their 2 enchiladas. They do Taco Tuesday, as most Mexican restaurants do. I just like their enchiladas. They had this mild sauce that I eat there like once a month, but I mean, if I could go anywhere, it would probably be Cafe Rio overall, because McDonald's can get old quickly.
Yes.
But I just wish honestly, I wish Boston Market never changed their macaroni recipe, cheese recipe, and they changed it, and it went right downhill.
Mac and cheese is always a necessity or to die for in sort of a sense. So, Reily, fast food dinner place.
Oh man, let's see. I mean, it's my pleasure. I got to go Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. If only they were open on Sundays. That's what I'm always wanting it.
I can respect the reason they aren't.
No, I respect it too. I'm just saying. It's something my girlfriend's like, I want Chick-fil-A, but it's Sunday. I'm like,
yes. Well, then she got to go to church to get that blessing.
Yeah, you got to go to church's chicken to get that blessing afterwards after the church. But it's that's the same.
But being from Texas, Whataburger is also a preferred staple.
Okay.
But In-N-Out.
All right.
Forget In-N-Out.
All right. So here's the thing. I have given Whataburger many, many chances. Like here's the problem. People keep telling me I need to try it in Texas. I'm going out to Texas next week as a recording for spring break. So I'll give a first report on that if we have the Whataburger over there. But I've had Whataburger in Florida and in Alabama thus far, and every time I've had it, it's just very the problem is, and you certainly know this, Reily, with Whataburger or Joe with Boston Marketplace, we elevate our local restaurant chains to a certain level and overhype them. You got to try In-N-Out. You got to try Whataburger. You got to try this place. That anytime I go into those kind of things, the same thing happened with In-N-Out. I compare In-N-Out to a better Steak and Shake. Like, I think they got some good food and such. But the problem is I was expecting to go to a culinary ecstasy, like a culinary bliss. And when I have it, I'm just very disappointed of like, this isn't as good as people hype it up to be.
Well, man, it's like a Adam Sandler movie. You know, it's not Oscar worthy, but if you're in the mood for it, it won't let you down. It's a good time.
Whataburger does have a good Dr. Pepper shake. Like, they have that in the limited time. That thing is pretty good.
See, that's the level I have not gone to Whataburger for. I just go for the burger. I go for the fries and the spicy ketchup.
Oh,
and yes.
Yeah, the spicy ketchup absolutely is well worth it.
Yes. Going out of state for Whataburger, I don't go unless I'm back home in Texas. So it's good to get a flavor of home. And yes, when you're in Texas, you definitely need to go eat at Whataburger, because I guarantee you, or I hope to guarantee you, that it will be better since it is from that state.
I will try it. Yeah, Joe?
Dessert. This is
I never answered the food. I never answered for my dinner place.
Oh, go ahead. Before then we'll go to dessert. Go ahead.
Go!
In terms of like chains, in terms of dinner and such, I guess I'm maybe on the on the side of Chick-fil-A, like in terms of go-to places. Like Chipotle also kind of transcends into that, because you can have it for lunch or dinner or stuff like that. But I could technically have Waffle House for dinner.
I
think you could too. I love steak. So like anytime doing steak at sides or whatever. So like I need to go to Outback. It's been a while since I've been over there, but in terms of like the chains, but I love a good either filet or New York strip or ribeye, stuff like that. I love a good steak. Medium rare is the only way to do it, though. Don't at me.
Medium.
Oh, medium well.
No. Okay. No.
We got 3 different degrees of insanity here.
I quote King of the Hill. They start out an episode where Hank is cooking a steak on the grill. Medium rare, firm on the outside, but with a little give. His son Bobby is looking at him and asks, "What happens if someone wants theirs well done?" We ask them politely but firmly to leave. And people laugh when I say that quote. If you ask for anything under medium rare, and I look and go, so in conclusion, leave.
You know, being that that's a Texas-based animated show, I never watched King of the Hill.
I've seen some clips here and there. Haven't watched the full thing. So, all right, dessert boy, what do you say, Joe?
All right, Reese's Sonic Blast from Sonic.
Reese's? You say Reese's?
It's Reese's.
Yeah.
Reese's Sonic Black. Sonic.
What? Wait a minute.
Sonic Blast. Sonic Blast.
Hold on a second.
Time out. We're
Time out. Flag on the play. Challenge there. What is a Reese's Sonic Black? What is that?
We're gonna get canceled. Son of a bitch. Or Reese's Sonic
folks.
Blast. It's like
okay.
It's like Reese's crumbs, like peanut butter chips.
Yeah,
and it's really good.
Okay.
Riley, it's 11 o'clock at night, man. My brain's shot.
It's 11 o'clock already. Jeez.
From where I live in Maryland, so.
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock over here in Central Time. But all right, so Reese's Sonic Blast is yours. Riley, what you got?
Let's just hope we don't get canceled.
Yeah, I mean,
we won't get canceled for that. It's just...
No, it's a slip of the tongue. It's a slip of the tongue. You're not in Oakland. You're fine. Which is no offense to Oakland. Pretty soon the A's won't even be in Oakland. They're getting canceled there. It's crazy. But dessert. There's so many good ones, and at the same time, so many bad ones for my waistline.
Oh, same here.
Oh, yes. The more I love them, the more they hate me from the inside out. But if I had to pick anything, we've got a Sonic down the road here, and their Oreo Blast is chef's kiss.
Man, you guys are on the same vibes of Sonic, man. They got some decent stuff. Like, I enjoy their cookie dough blast, but like I will go out of the way for a cookie dough blizzard from Dairy Queen before I go kind of near Sonic.
See, I've never trusted a shake or a Frosty that if I turn it over, it won't fall. I feel like there's something off there.
It's soft serve. That's not that it's off. You could do the same thing with the Sonic Blast. It's just
I am not going to.
Exactly. All right. Well, we've gone through that whole cycle. Let's get back to sports, shall we?
Yes. Right. Sports. So, touchdown, ball. Let's go.
Riley, you've already mentioned several times, and we obviously met through the National Sports Media Association banquet, and you've talked about your experience being there several times. So, interested to know, what does the NSMA mean to you?
Oh, geez. I can remember going for the first time. I'd just become the sports director in 2018. It was June, and my faculty supervisor and the GM of KTSW told me about this event where they apparently host some of the biggest sportscasters in the country. They sent an email out asking if we wanted to send any students, and he said, "I'm thinking about sending you and one other person. Would you want to go?" I'm like, hell yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Because you get a chance to mingle with people that you want to be one day or be in positions like one day while being yourself. Always be yourself, kids. So he gave us the money we needed. We just had to cover the plane and any gas and a rental car, which we did. And so me and a buddy of mine who I made one of my assistant directors for the station at the time in the sports department went. And I can remember getting there and trying to look my best, being nervous as heck, or hell. We've already crossed that bridge already, haven't we, Joe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, we're good. Joe with that devious little laugh in the background. The cage is loose. Either way. And after a nerve-wracking flight, because I hate flying, and at the time I was having a bad feeling being on that flight because there was turbulence in the air. I asked the stewardess if there's anything I could do to make it feel a little less turbulent. She's like, "Yeah, no, we're basically in a tin can 20,000 feet up in the sky, so you just got to make the best of it." I'm like, great. So we get there, and we drive from Charlotte to Winston-Salem, which I'd never been in North Carolina before, so that was cool. And love the scenery, love the trees, because in Texas we don't have that much shrubbery on the highway, so it was nice. And we get there, and I can remember that night at the welcome dinner, everyone's gathered around Kevin Harlan because Kevin was there. I think he had won his first of back-to-back National Sportscaster of the Year award. So the fact that he's going to be there this summer, I'm really excited because I can remember waiting in line to meet him, shaking his hand, him looking me in the eye with that signature voice that I had heard so many times playing NBA 2K and thinking, this guy isn't real. There's no way. This voice is made up. They computer animated this. But then you hear and you're like, oh my God, he literally was born to do this.
Yep.
Like God picked him. It was awesome. And you talk to him, and the second he talks back to you, you suddenly feel like you can fly to the moon because he's so kind. He's so supportive. And he made me feel like whatever doubts I had in my career, I can overcome any of them. And I had a lot of them at the time. I honestly didn't really know if I was going to keep this as a path until I got laid off and felt determined to make something of myself from that point forward. Because up until that point, I didn't know if this was going to be what I wanted to do. I had other things pulling my interests. And I finally decided, you know what? It's time. I got to get serious and get focused because I've got the talent, but I need to really buy in here. And once I did, a lot of good things started to happen. But meeting Kevin there and having that talk with him, dressed to the nine, and he's there being honored and making you feel like $1 million when this is a guy that's literally done everything. And he's done it so well.
Yep.
Like he was a wonderkind at Kansas who was good enough to call Jayhawk games as a student and built a career as an NBA announcer when he was in his early 20s. I was only 21 at the time. I was a year away from being the age he was when he was hired to be the voice of the Kansas City Kings. It was nuts. Whoa, that fell. All right, back to your regularly scheduled face. Either way, that experience there and meeting Dave and meeting all these very kind people, including Brett Williams, it made me feel like I'm not alone in this. There are a lot of people here that know exactly what I'm going through. They've been in my shoes. And all they want to do is, yeah, exactly. They're willing to help. It's inspiring. Like, the industry is tough. There's no doubt about it. And it's not most of the time because of the people. It's not because the people are out to kill each other.
Yep.
We're all going after the same limited opportunities, and there's only so many of them that you can really make a life off of. And that's unfortunate. I hope one day that can change to where more levels can have full-time broadcasters, directors, and assistant directors of broadcasting who know how to monetize it, know how to value it, know how to put people who are hardworking and can't stay in this business because it's financially unsustainable after a certain point, and they have to give up on a dream, which is heartbreaking to me. And being there that weekend made me feel like I am in the right place, and if I keep working hard, I can hopefully one day be in a position to give back like what Kevin was doing there, giving so many young announcers such hope that they can make it.
I'm looking forward to I got to meet him back in January as well. I booth visited with him during the Titans Jaguars game when he was in Nashville. But I think it'll be funny when everybody's surrounded behind him. You see him shaking hands. They're like, Kevin, I don't know which hand you're shaking over there. I'm shaking both hands. That would be pretty special. But one of the, as you already know, because you made it very clear in our texts and exchanges that you listen to the podcast very well, so you know which question is coming on this. But I quote Dave Gorin in how he's as the adage of it's not what you know or who you know, it's who knows you, and what they could say about you, whether it's in person or behind the scenes. So, and I'm sure you could talk on and on about the relationships that have meant the most to you in your journey. And you already alluded to it throughout our discussion. But what method have you found, or methods have you found, are the most effective in building meaningful relationships in our industry?
Got it. Well, being that I have Asperger's syndrome, being social
Same
is
here.
not my. Yeah, exactly. We've talked about this. It's not my immediate programming to go out and be the chatty Cathy at a party. I'm very reserved. I'm very quiet. Which in this industry, if you want to get your name out, you have to kind of betray yourself a little bit. Be uncomfortable,
Yep.
uncomfortably comfortable, as I like to call it. So every interaction for me comes with a tinge of uncomfortability because I'm always present in what I'm saying. I'm always trying to think about how I can make the best impression. And over time, I've found as I've gotten older, I'm no longer chasing a connection simply to have it for my convenience.
Yep.
I just want to get to know someone. And that's really what it's all about. If you get to know people earnestly, if you get to know them not just because they have something you want, whether it be advice or maybe a connection that you can use to get a job or even a job that you want itself, if you just make it about getting to know them and all about simply wanting to be a good person to them, that's all you can do. I feel like a lot of the advice I've heard, and even some things that I've seen in the sports industry, there are people that make connections simply because it'll serve them later. Well, that's not how you're going to get anywhere. You've got to make people feel appreciated, and you've got to be your authentic self with them. Just be you and make them feel comfortable enough to be them. And that tends to wear on people because there are a lot of talented people in this industry who, for some reason or another, haven't reached that level that they set out to. And that's not a bad thing. Being in this industry and making a career out of it, no matter what level you're at, if you do it well and you care, that's a successful career to me because a lot of people start this and quit. And we know that.
Reily, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. I really appreciate having you on the podcast. Obviously, it's the first interaction I've had with you, and it was a great time chatting with you for the past hour and 26 minutes. So thank you for coming onto the podcast. You're a good person. I hope to continue more conversations in the future.
You got it, buddy. I love this. This was fun. You guys have done a wonderful job with this thing. You're helping get people's voices out there that don't always have that opportunity. And I'm excited to see how this episode turns out, and I'm excited to see what else you got in the pipeline. I mean, I felt like just taking a number waiting to get on. So this was awesome.
If you'd like to support the podcast, you can download or visit the Buy Me a Coffee app and look up the On the Call podcast. Again, Reily, I said the Buy Me a Coffee
Buy Me a
app.
Coffee podcast.
Yeah. So
Yes.
if you need the link to find our page, it'll be linked in the description. Any last word, guys?
Anything on your end, Reily, before I say anything?
Butterscotch.
Perfect. Perfect. I reflect the same sentiments as Joe. You know, you've been very complimentary to us behind the scenes and publicly on your sentiments on the podcast. Now you've enjoyed it. You have a record now. We have the longest podcast episode in On the Call history because you have surpassed Darren Vaught on that. I'm sure you'll be able to chirp at him on that in Greensboro. So that should be fun. And let's limit it to 2 drinks with butterscotch in Greensboro at the after party. How's that?
Hey, that's fine with me. I got to drive anyway, so I'll be taking hard shots of water.
Man, here's the secret. You chug a bunch of water before you go to bed, no matter how much you drink, and the hangover is not going to be a problem. Like I have not had a hangover ever because of that.
With the size of my head, there's a lot of space for pain and headache to fill up, so I can't take that risk. I got a massive head, man. I'm like Bruce Bochy with this cranium. It's crazy.
Look at mine. We got almost the same size forehead, and I haven't had any of that issue. Come on, man.
Yeah, but you got a more straightforward, like a top-down head. I've got a wide head. Like I've got a Bruce Bochy, hard to fit in a cap head, and you got nice hair.
Very fair. Very fair. I think that's a good note to end on.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time where Joe and Spencer are on